morning everybody, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I thought I'd do another ticketed snippet, as I'm calling them. We've actually got a challenge in my group on Facebook, and these are we're doing these in honour of Mary, that we're sending. We're going to send these to Mary, who's having stem cell treatment, and this is my first one, and I've added a word just for Mary, and then I'm going to send that to her. I've also received another one from Janet Hills, and she's added me one as well, which I won't show because it'll be a nice surprise for Mary when she sees them all together. So if you want to join in that challenge, that's on my Facebook group. But I'm just trying to decide. This is not going in my book, this is going to Mary, but I'm going to add these to my Thrinchy books, as we call them. This is a little book that I sell online that's 4 inches square, and this is what we do our Thrinchies in, but it's also perfect for our ticketed snippets. Now I'm trying to decide whether to place, when I do them, place them in the middle, and then I can add a little bit of shading on the outside, or add them to the side, and then I can add a touch of stamping on the side. No idea yet, but I'll have a think. So I'm going to do another one, and I thought we'll go similar sort of idea we did previously. So I'm going to use the snippet stencil ticket, and I'm going to use the actual cutout piece like I did before. So these are our ticketed snippets, and on these ones I'm not going to number them. You can then dip in and out as much or as little, and you can create your own as well. A nice lovely way to use our stamps, but on a small surface area, so just perfect. So I'm going to, let's move those out of the way. I'm going to take my ticketed snippet, and I'm going to just add a little bit of vintage photo just around the edges of my ticket. Quite random, just around the edge. Now you can mop this up. I don't know whether I've still got my piece of card that I mopped the other one up with. I've got that many backgrounds, honestly. I don't know whether I've still got the one I mopped up. I think I've put that somewhere, so I won't bother mopping that up, but you could mop that up onto another piece of card quite easily to start another background. Just grab a little touch of kitchen towel just so that I'm not working in any moisture, and then I'm going to spritz this with water just so that it's all reacted with a little bit of moisture. And you can see, nice and easy, no rush. You can just, the other thing is you can use your scraps of paper for these little tickets as well. So you can use your scrap. You can use your scraps, which is perfect. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place my kitchen roll, because as I press, then as it comes on out to the outside edge, it will just soak up the excess moisture. So I'm just going to give that a few seconds just to absorb the extra moisture that's in there, just to give that a little bit of time. And I always find that if you give it a little bit of time, it makes its impression on the card, and the ink soaks onto the card, and it's just lovely. Look at that. That's how much extra moisture was in there. So it doesn't matter if your ticket is straight or whatever, because you're going to cut that out. Look at that. I just love when you give it a little bit of time, how you get this lovely impression. Just even that. I love how you give it a little time, and it you have that it oxidizes, and it's just lovely. I just love it. You can also add a little bit more moisture if you wish. I'm not even going to bother, and I don't have to worry about masking it off because I'm cutting it out, so that's not a problem. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to take TE45, which is Dog Rose and Butterfly, and I've got this stamp here. I love that there's lots of ephemera pieces in here that you can use throughout your designs. Now the tickets, I'm not going to sort of over clutter anything. It's a lovely little space just to have some creative time, and it's not too daunting. So I'm going to take this stamp here. Don't really need a big acrylic block. And I can just take this. I'm going to add some of that stamping here. And you can see I'm going to cut it out, so it doesn't really matter about me masking that off at all. It's because I'm just cutting that edge off there. I love to use the acetate for that. I'm then going to use Portobello VersaFine Clair. So I've got these colours online. So let's just, I always ink more than necessary because then I'm not concerned about missing an area. So I'm going to add a little bit of that stamping coming down here, like so. So I'm just sort of pressing the area that I really want inside the ticketed snippet. So you can see it's outside the area, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to cut that out. If you wish, you can cut it out first and then stamp. It's not a problem, whichever you prefer to do. So let's just roll that stamp off there. Now these are photopolymer stamps made in the UK, so really good quality. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to take a Myriad of Designs TE44. Just place that in there. And then I'm going to take the smaller of the acorns here, this little smaller one here, because then I can have that dangling from that piece, that sort of my faux branch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Sand Dune ink. So I use the Sand Dune ink. It doesn't have to be stamped in black. I can then colour that however I wish. So I'm going to have one sort of there, like so. You can see I've got that lovely impression now. And then I can have one here. Like so. And then I can add a touch of colour to that, however, you know, whatever way pleases you. So I'm going to use my Inktense pencil. No, yes, Inktense. You'll have to excuse me. My brain isn't working. So I've got some Inktense pencils here. So here I've got Madder Brown. I love the name. Madder Brown, and it's 1920. I think this was one of the newer colours. You know, they added, I think it was 28 colours toward, you know, sort of later on. So I'm going to add a little bit of this dark just around the edge. So I can add the colour because I've sort of stamped in a lighter colour. So I'm going round with my Inktense pencil, which is reactive with water, and they are permanent when dry, and you can use them on many surfaces as well. Let's add a little bit more of that brown. There we go. And then I'm going to use a lighter colour, which for me is going to be tan, which is 1720. Madder Brown was 1920. Oh, you couldn't have made that up, could you? So then I'm going to come in with the lighter colour. And just as I would with my Prismacolors, I'm sort of going into that darker colour with the lighter colour. Just in the same way. But then I can react this colour with water. So we bring in a little bit of the water. And then what I like to do is push that colour so that the darkest colour does remain at the edge. So just so that that darker colour remains at that edge. So I'm just going to push the darkest colour right to the edge. Pick up a little bit more water and just push that dark colour right to that edge as well. And when you dry that with the heat tool, that is permanent. And they just work beautifully. You can also, she says as she rolls her brush into the water, you can then come in and add another layer, just like I would if I was doing my Prismas. You can come in and add another layer and intensity of that colour. Please don't bring your wet paintbrush to your pencil. Don't do that. These are not woodless pencils. There are different ways that you can use the Inktense. And then I'm going to take my brush again, some of the moisture, just push that darkest colour right to that edge. Push the darkest colour right to the edge. Just so that you've got the darkest colour right there at the edge. And we can also add a little bit of shading as well. Obviously, it'll make a little more sense when you cut your ticket out. So I'm just going to, it's a really good pen that is, not. Just so that that is dangling from there. Let me see, there we go. I'll just grab my heat tool. And if I just give that a little dry, this Inktense then is permanent. So we'll just give that a little dry. And that's now permanent. Let's just, so we'll then take our grey one, which is the Chinese ink, just add a little bit of shading around here. Oh, do you like how I used the wrong end of the paintbrush? Just add a little bit of shading, and I only have to sort of touch that very lightly, just to add a little bit of shading around there. Wonderful. Let's just pick that moisture up so we're not sort of sitting in there. And then if you come back to TE45, Dog, Rose and Butterfly, you've got a lovely text here that talks all about the garden. So it's perfect for just adding some text to the background. And if you're not sure that you've got it the right way, so let's grab our, oh, we've got some scrap card here, for goodness sake. So if you're not sure you've got it the right way, for instance, let's take the stamp, and let's say you can't really see which way it goes, so you can see, let's just stamp it here. There we go. And if you're not sure, add a little black mark like I have with a permanent marker on the back, and then you can see which way to add your stamp. Now, I don't want the stamping to be too dark, so I'm going to use my sand dune ink. I'm going to add a little bit of stamping. Now, don't forget, I'm going to cut the ticket out, so it doesn't really matter that some goes over the edge. So let's take a little bit of the, and then you can add the second generation and third generation, just so it goes paler as you go down that ticket. Just love that. There we go. You can also sort of use parts of bits as well. So you can use sort of parts of your tickets and things like that on there if you wish. Now I'm going to go back to TE44, which is a myriad of designs, and we've got our little black bird on there, or crow if you want it to be. And I'm just going to use black. I quite like working on this small scale. So let's add our little bird just to our design, just with Nocturne ink. There, where are you? Where have you gone? Where's have you gone? There we go. And then I can just add a little bit of shading, just so that our little bird isn't floating. So let's just add, just so that that's not floating too much. And then we can take our, what's this called? Posca pen. Get that working. And you can bring in your touches of white, should you wish. Bring in little touches of white. Just to bring a little bit of lightness to that, just lovely. And then you can either cut using your cutters. In my previous ticketed snippet, in my previous ticketed snippet, oh dear me, you saw me cut out the straight edges with my cutter. You don't have to have a cutter. Obviously, if you use the cutter, you get a perfect straight line, but it really doesn't matter. Now the door has gone. I'm just hoping my husband answers the door. Bear with me. I don't think he's going to. So if it goes quiet, just bear with me. Hello there. That is lovely. Will you let me hang in the thing later on? Have a good day. Sorry about that. My hubby didn't answer the door, which was really handy. And it was actually UPS collecting a parcel. Brilliant. So, as I was saying, you can use your cutter to go down the straight edge if you wish. Or you can just cut like I'm doing. Nice and simple to cut. But obviously, if you use your cutters, you'll get a perfectly straight edge. But doesn't that look lovely just as a ticketed snippet? It just looks wonderful. And what I'm going to do Let's go around the edge, just with our vintage photo. Now, it's entirely up to you if you go around the edge with black, you know, like we do with the fringes, etc. However, I want these to be a little bit different, so I don't want to do everything the same. So we've got the fringes. Let's bring in our fringes. So you can see our fringes, we add black. We use a faux black mat around the edges. But I don't want to do that with the tickets. 2 reasons. 1, I want them to be different, so you can add different colours to the edges. And 2, bit of a pain if you've got to go around these sort of little corner bits as well. I mean, it's easy enough with the Posca pen, but I'm not going to bother doing that. I just love these, absolutely love them. So we've got our little ticket there, and I'm going to, let's just take that moisture off there. I've got the word acorn. Excuse me. First I have to answer the door, then I cough. So I'm just going to check. I honestly spend ages, even on a little ticket, just deciding where I want to add the acorn word. You see, I don't want it, I don't want it to sort of detract. Let's bring in, can you see? I don't want it to detract too much from the design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this down in my little book, and I think I am going to place it just on one side, because then you've got a couple of options. You can either write some notes of how you made it or what products were used, or you can add a little bit of stamping, should you wish, to the side. Just makes them look a little bit different than our fringes. So I'm just going to add, bring it down a bit, Tracy. There we go. So I've got my first ticketed snippet in there, and what I'm thinking is, so I add it there. I need to bring this down here. So I've added no ink to this at the moment. So then I can add acorn, just going down here or here. So let's take our, first of all, let's add some shading. So I'm going to take a little bit. Let's just add a little bit of water. And we'll just add a little bit of shading just around that edge. Like so. There we go. And then I'm going to take my black ink. Don't need to stick anything else down, so let's place that back. And we're going to ink this with my black ink. And then I'm just going to add acorn. And everyone is going to be different. I'm not going to sort of do anything exactly the same. The other thing is, when I do, so I've mentioned the black. So I'm not numbering them, so we can do them in any old fashion that we really want to. That's part of the fun. I'm also going to take my smaller Posca pen, which is PC1MR. I'm just going to add some splatters. There we go. nice big splatter there. So just going to add some splatters. And I love it because I've got my first ticketed snippet in there. And then let's get rid of the acorn wording. And then which one are you now? And if I wanted to, obviously you're going to have to let that Posca pen dry, or we can just dry it, of course. Let's just give that a dry. I love them little acorns. Just give that a dry. Don't worry about your page sort of bending a little bit because you're going to close the book. So then if I want to, I can add a little bird here. So take the bird. And the idea of the snippets, the Thrinchies, the ticketed snippets is you use your product. It doesn't sit there gathering dust. You actually use it, and you've got a reason to use it. So let's just add a little bit. Now the paper inside the book, you know, it's not super thick because it's designed for us to stick things in, but it's just enough just to blend out. There we go. A little bit more water just to soften that a little bit more. That's it. So now we have our first ticketed snippet in the book, or you might be doing our challenge where you create one for Mary that I can send. You can send it to me and I'll get them sent for you, just so you can see. And also, if I want, what I love is, because of how they fit in the Thrinchy book, so let's take the text stamp again. I can take a little bit of the text stamp. I love having a little bit of fun with the stamps. I can take my little text stamp as is, and I can just add a little bit of text, just perfect. I can add a little bit of text just to there as well. Just add our touches of white again. There we go. So if we just lift this up, you can see our first ticketed snippet. And I absolutely love them. So again, another addiction for Tracy. So I hope you'll give these a go. They're great fun and really simple ideas. You can also add touches of white, if you wish, to your little leafy areas. You can just add little touches of white to that should you wish. So I hope you'll give these a go. I hope you'll join with me, and then those stamps are not gathering dust. And it's all flat, apart from cutting our little ticket out. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.